This is the toughest challenge of my orchid quest. An orchid with a legendary reputation. It grows in dark, shady woodland, can spend years underground without flowering, never seems to flower in the same place, is very small, and flowers for a brief period any time from July to September in the darkest corners of woodland. The ghost orchid, Epipogium aphyllum. It is incredibly rare in the UK. Because of this, I have decided not to try and find one here. It would take too much time, and even if I were successful, I wouldn't want to put the plant at risk by featuring it in a video. So instead, I'm embarking on a lengthy journey to the French Alps, taking a ferry from Dover to Calais, and then driving 400 miles through the beautiful French countryside to Vercors, where ghost orchids can be found in the wooded mountainsides, if you are lucky. The ghost orchid was discovered in Hertfordshire in 1854 and has been seen surprisingly few times in the UK since then. In 2009, it was declared extinct after it hadn't been sighted in over 22 years. A week later, a specimen was found growing in Hertfordshire. It would be 15 years before there was another sighting in the UK. I arrived in Vercors to find it had not escaped the heatwave that was affecting much of Western Europe. I hoped it would not diminish my chances of finding a ghost orchid. I began my search in the shady wooded slopes near where I was staying. I found bird's nest orchids that looked a bit dry and shriveled. This patch of red helleborines was almost dried to a crisp. Undeterred, I continued my search. Could this be? Not this time. A yellow bird's nest, also known as Dutchman's pipe or pine sap. While it wasn't what I was looking for, it was a good sign. They like the same sorts of conditions to grow. A white helleborine with ripening seed pod, and a red helleborine with perfect flowers. This area of woodland seemed less parched. Perhaps luck was with me after all. More yellow bird's nest. Dare I hope? And finally, in a pool of light, a small cluster of ghost orchids. There were about 7 or so plants, apparently growing in a ring. They were very small. In most orchids, the flowers turn upside down as they develop, with the lip becoming the bottom petal. Ghost orchids don't perform this maneuver, so the white lip, marked with a pink pattern, is at the top. The rest of the flower is yellowish, and the stem pinkish red. The specimens in the UK tend to be much paler. Some of the flowers were a little bit withered, and the lip seems to have flopped downwards, changing the appearance of the flower. I had heard the smell of this flower compared to bananas or vanilla, but with a fetid edge. So I gave them a sniff, and I can only describe it as being like the lemur enclosure at my local zoo. A mix of fruit, straw, and animal feces. It can take over 10 years for a ghost orchid to flower after growing from seed, and they seem not to set seed very readily. They can propagate vegetatively, with the branched rhizomes forming thin tendrils that act like underground runners, forming new plants at the end. Like bird's nest orchids, the ghost orchid has no chlorophyll, and is a microheterotroph, taking nutrients from underground fungi. It has no need of the surface world except to occasionally flower, and so will stay underground for many, many years, waiting for just the right conditions. It is possible those conditions will never occur again in the UK, as the climate continues to change. Habitat destruction may wipe out plants living dormant underground. One day the ghost orchids might bloom for the last time in the UK. This may already have happened.